What's up, Wolfpack Nation? We are back with part 2 of our interview with Mike Glennon. If you haven't already checked out episode 1, please go back and check that. But if not, you can stay and watch this one and then go watch episode 2. In episode 1, we talked about his time at NC State. We touched on some great things about his time in the NFL. So please go make sure you go watch that, like that. And then while you're there, make sure you like this one when you come back and watch this one if you are already watching it. All right, Mike. So we talked about, like I said, all of that good stuff. But let's talk about, a little bit of, what you're doing now. I know you've been doing a lot of breakdowns of ACC quarterbacks. I've been watching some of your Twitter videos out there. What are some things that are standing out? And we'll touch with other teams in the ACC. I know the one that really stood out to me was Tyler Van Dyke. But what are your thoughts out there with ACC quarterbacks? Because I would say that arguably we're the deepest quarterback league in all of football, college football.
Yeah, it's definitely the deepest class. And I mean, I watched tape of Devin Leary, Tyler Van Dyke, Brennan Armstrong, Lee Cunningham, Phil Dracovic, Sam Hartman. I want to say that's it. And then I didn't even get into Keaton Slovis, who I think is going to be a good player for Pitt. Yeah. And then now after just watching Drake May, I mean, there's over half the league has got guys that have NFL potential, at least. I didn't really watch that Jeff Sims out of Georgia Tech, but he's got talent as well. So, man, it is a deep class. It'll be challenging for ACC defenses, but for the fans of the ACC, it's going to be fun to watch these guys throw it around this fall.
So, excluding Devin Leary, who would be your number one ACC quarterback out there?
It would be Tyler Van Dyke, just because he has the most potential to do what he only played half the year last year as a redshirt freshman and finished the season with 6 consecutive 300-yard games. We talked last episode about stats. That's a pretty impressive one for a guy to do in his first season. And he just has the arm strength. He has the size. He's got good athleticism. It's not great. But kind of the way I think of it is, I think Devin Leary has the best arm. I think Brennan Armstrong has the best brain. I think Malik Cunningham clearly has the best legs, and Tyler Van Dyke doesn't quite have that. But he doesn't quite have he doesn't have Devin's arm. He doesn't have Brennan's intelligence, but he's the closest thing if you molded them all together. Someone does one of those drawings where they Photoshop all the different parts.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have one of them. Yeah. But if you combine them all together, he would kind of be that guy. So that's why I really
he's kind of like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say he's kind of like one of those guys that ends up with Player of the Year, but he doesn't get a lot of first place votes, but he gets enough of the other votes to overcome. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really talented. But at this point of his career, I don't think he's elite in any of them. But he's really impressive. And then the other guy would be Brennan Armstrong, just because he's so smart. I mean, he threw for over 4,500 yards last year, and he plays with great anticipation and timing and accuracy. Again, definitely does not have the arm that Devin has, but he does such a good job getting the ball out of his hands and understanding where the holes are in the coverage that he kind of makes up for that. It's not like he has a lack of arm strength. He just doesn't have the level that Devin does. But I really enjoyed watching him because I'm kind of a guy that prides myself on preparation and studying tape and understanding what the defense is going to do. And you can tell that he does that he must watch a lot of film, has really good preparation because he has a plan of what he's going to do with the ball. It seems like every play.
Yeah, I would say the one knock if I look at a lot of stats, and again, we can talk about stats all day, but they don't always paint a true picture of what the player is all about. It's always about situation and parts of the game. But the one thing I think he would need to clean up is his interceptions, and I know that might be partly because of the way they play behind so much, and that he kind of has to force it. But I think if he cleans up the interception part of his game, I don't think there's a reason why he couldn't vie for Offensive Player of the Year in the ACC.
Yeah, he did have a little bit of a ball security issue, and he definitely had his fair share of interceptions. But that was also kind of like somewhat of a reflection of sheer number of times he threw the ball. Right. The ratio probably still wasn't bad, but I thought the biggest area of improvement for him is his ball security in the pocket. He's reckless with it.
Yeah.
He's just running around with one hand on the ball. and there's a lot of opportunity for those defense linemen to strip it. So I think, with Des Kitchings, who used to be at NC State, being there, I think they're going to be a little more balanced. I don't think he's quite going to throw the ball and sit in shotgun all day like he did. So he might not have the same kind of 4,500 yards passing like he did last year, but I still think he's going to be really efficient for them. And I just really liked watching him play.
Go ahead, Michael.
All the ACC QBs, which one do you think has the best NFL potential?
Yeah, I think Tyler Van Dyke. He just has so much upside. He didn't look like a freshman playing out there, and he has the size, he has the arm,
right?
He has the athleticism that I think, he's going to be done with his third year, so he could enter the draft next year. And obviously, we still got a long way to go. I mean, he's still got a full season to play. But if he continues on the trajectory that he did, I think he can be a first-round pick.
So switching back to our QB1, Devin Leary, what are some things, like you said you've had some talks with him and you've met him a few times. Do you guys like talk shop? You just kind of getting to know him? Like what's your relationship there with him?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Early in his career, we would throw together because I still train there in the off season, so I would throw with him a bunch, and he's always had a tremendous ability to throw the football. I mean, he's always spun it really well. Yeah. And we talk ball, and we also just kind of, chat and catch up and all that. But he's been inquisitive. He asks me questions, and I'm always around to help. And I've sat in a few of their meetings, over the course of his career, but also this past spring. And I sat in one this fall during camp, and I've just seen him mature and grow with the questions he asks. In the beginning, deservedly so, rightfully so. It was kind of basic stuff and kind of more about what, the offense is. And now it's like, well, if the defense is doing this, what do you want me to do? It's just taken to a whole other level to talk about kind of graduate school stuff. So it's been cool to see him grow over the year. He's always been able to throw it, but at the beginning of his career, everything was 100 miles per hour. He didn't really have much touch to his game. And he was, what I like to say, he was a thrower, and he's developed into a passer. Now he understands coverages. He understands when to put a little touch on the ball. He knows where to go with the ball. And, man, watching the film, it really impressed me. I mean, I keep going back to it. I knew he could throw the ball, but when you see it on film, I know what it looks like from seeing guys in the NFL, the way it looks on film, the way how fast the ball gets to point A to point B, and seeing him do it. I mean, he has an arm that absolutely belongs on Sundays. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year and prove that he belongs at that next level. But more importantly, hopefully, he can be the guy that can get NC State over the hump and finally win an ACC championship around here. And they got the good skill set around them. So I'm really excited to see them kind of kick off the season this week against ECU.
Absolutely. What's one thing that, maybe the ordinary fan doesn't know about Devin Leary that you see, either just talking to him or seeing on tape? Like in the first episode, you mentioned, the way he handled himself with the media. The one thing that to me stands out is just how cool, calm, and collective he is in the moment. Like it just, from the Pitt game a few years ago to Clemson to Carolina. Like I don't feel like the moment's too big for him, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely not at all. And that's what I really like about him. I mean, and every time I'm around him, he's the same. He's steady, Eddie, and he plays that way. It's almost a way that was described to me this year, when you talk about the quarterbacks and staying so cerebral, it's got to be the most important thing to you in the world and the least important thing to you at the same time. So you got to prepare this is the most important thing. But once you get on the field, it's kind of almost just like take a deep breath and just play. And whatever happens, happens. And I feel like whether it's intentional or not, that's kind of his mindset. He just seems like he's out there slinging the rock around. And he doesn't care if they're winning or they're losing. He's the same.
Yeah.
And he's tough as nails. I mean, there's some hits he takes where he just pops right up. And it's the next play. It's the same thing. Yeah. Whether we're up or we're down, I'm going to fire this next one in there. And, I have a lot of respect for the way he plays the game, the toughness he brings, and that gains a lot of respect from his teammates.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do this year with another year in Tim Beck's offense. You know, this will be his, I think, third year in the system. So, you know, I think, you know, he'll even have even more success. But, you know, switching gears a little bit, moving on from the quarterback, but let's talk about the team as a whole. What are your expectations from, you know, now you're kind of a fan, right? So what from a fan, you know the history better than a lot of people out there. What do you think, you know, the expectation, like kind of the floor and the ceiling is for this team?
I think they can win the ACC, and I think it's obviously going to have to go through Clemson and Death Valley. That game right there is going to be, I think it could be the determining factor. And yes, obviously can't go out and lay an egg this week in Greenville. At the same time, that doesn't change anything for the ACC championship. So right. I'm very confident, by the way, that they'll beat ECU. But that game against Clemson, I think, is going to come down to whether NC State's offense can score, I would say, 21 to 24 points. It's going to be a really good defense, but I think NC State's defense, our defense, is going to be able to hold Clemson to really 17 or less. I mean, I just think our defense is that good. And a lot of it's going to depend on the growth of DJ Uyunglele. I mean, if he shows a lot of improvement, it's going to be tougher for NC State. But if he doesn't show that he's ready to improve, do they stick with him? Do they go to the freshman? I mean, they're going to have to make that decision quick because I wouldn't want my true freshman quarterback's first game to be against the defense that NC State has.
No.
So, you know, depending on how that quarterback situation plays out, I think that game could be the deciding factor. But back to your original question, I don't see why 10 wins and then go to a bowl game and win 11. I don't think that's out of the question. Right. Who knows? I mean, there's not a game on their schedule that they realistically cannot win.
No,
right.
and you keep hearing it, especially, you know, you said you mentioned you've seen the All Access, and I think it was Drake that said it, like we're our toughest opponent, like we're the only ones that can beat us, and I think this year more than ever, I think that statement rings true. Obviously, you want your players to think that way, but I think even from a fan perspective, that the fans think that, like, in, you know, normally we're the hunters, but I think this year we're the hunted, and I think we proved that. You know, if we go out and play our game, I don't think there's anyone on the schedule to this date that can go out and beat us.
Yeah, and I believe that they truly feel that way because they beat Clemson last year. You know,
correct.
I remember I talked to the team a few years ago. I'm like, you guys may not remember because they were kids, but beginning when I got to school, Clemson was just okay. I mean, they were good. They weren't great.
Yeah.
But what these players have seen over the course of probably when they started watching college football is pure dominance by Clemson. So there was probably always a little bit of an intimidation, like, we're playing Clemson. Like, this team is going to be tough to beat. But they proved to themselves last year, we can do this. And, you know, they've been close before, but to finally get over that hump, and that gives a lot of confidence that when they go down to Death Valley, Clemson hasn't lost at Death Valley in however many years, but in the NC State players' mind, they're like, we just beat the same team last year. We don't care where we're playing. We'll play them anyway. We can beat them. I think that game
it's been over 1,000 days since Clemson beat us.
What's that?
It's been over 1,000 days since Clemson beat NC State.
That's a fun fact. I think at the end of the day, that game is going to be probably the biggest game in the entire ACC this year.
Yeah, it'll probably be one of the toughest tickets, I'm sure, for both fan bases. You know, especially if everything, you know, plays status quo out, that, you know, both teams will be undefeated coming into that game, potentially College game day showing up. You can make the argument that probably, other than the year we had a chance to go to the ACC championship and lost to Maryland, and we won't dwell on that, but I think you can argue that will be the biggest game probably since that moment.
Yeah, very, very well could be. I mean, I can't think of a bigger game since I've been watching, you know, been at NC State or have left, that I think you're probably right that will be the most anticipated game in over a decade.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
You could say Wake last year. If we beat Wake last year, we would have been in the title game too.
Yeah, but this I don't know.
That's true. But there were still some more games that need to be played though. So
yeah, that's true.
So, but so from your vantage point being a quarterback, and I know you watch a ton of film. Do you still do you watch a lot of state film particularly especially with the defense?
So I am like a film junkie. It's kind of weird. I mean, I'm sure it's not a complete surprise, but like I actually enjoy it. I like kind of locking myself in a room where it's just me and the clicker and the computer, and kind of it's an escape for me. So I really enjoyed watching these guys because I haven't watched film in the longest time I've ever gone without watching film. But I haven't really. I've been busy on these quarterbacks, so I haven't really dove into NC State's defense yet. I'll probably start watching more as the season goes to get an idea what they do, because I kind of want to learn this defense, because this 3-3-5 defense that Tony Gibson runs isn't really run in the NFL.
Right.
I kind of want to learn it and kind of see the strategy behind it, and hopefully at some point talk to him about it. But I know they're excited about the guys coming back. The linebackers, obviously, but it's across the board. I mean, it's going to be a tough defense, and that experience is not going to make it easy on the opposing offense.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point about the defense, that 3-3-5. It's, for me, I would say I'm a little bit more than the casual fan, but to your point, like, that's the one defense that I still try to, like, I've been watching it now. I think this is his 3rd or 4th year at State. I still don't understand the concepts of it and try to figure it out, because to your point, it's not something that you see very often.
Yeah, I mean, NFL, you hear 3-4 defense.
You hear or 4-3 or
a bunch of different ones, but the actual 3-3-5 isn't something you really hear of much. So I'm going to take a deeper dive into that at some point and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So you mentioned ACC championship as the team ceiling that you think that can win. Outside of injuries, what do you think prevents them from reaching that ceiling?
Well, I think it's still Clemson. I mean, at the end of the day, they're loaded on defense. I believe they're saying almost all 4 of their defensive linemen are potential first rounders, and I think they're saying like 2 defensive ends, or there might even be the backup defensive ends are like future first rounders too, whenever they get a chance. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like I heard Dabo Sweeney say that. So, I mean, when you have a defense that talented, it's not going to be easy. I mean, you just look at Vegas, and Clemson is still the clear favorite to win it. But if it doesn't go that well, then besides that one game, I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't work out that way. I don't know. I mean, I just think, for our reason, we didn't show up, and we got beat at some point during the season.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll talk about this because we're kind of dancing around it. Do you believe in NC State stuff?
I do not, but I do believe there are some NC State fans that secretly enjoy it, that they want to post it on their Facebook and almost woe is me, so they can go to work the next day. It was like, oh, NC State stuff again, I do think that I'm not saying everyone, but I think there are some NC State fans that secretly enjoy those collapses.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, again, we talked about it. These kids are human. They want to go out and win and do things. And I don't think, there's any kind of conspiracy theories. I I don't own any 10 hats. I just, sometimes you don't get the breaks, and sometimes bad things happen to good teams. I mean, it's just one of those things. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out because that's just one of those things it's kind of like one of those clouds of dust that always hangs over the NC State fan base.
And my argument for that against that is that, I mean, just look at the UNC game last year. If that's not the perfect example of everything going the opposite direction, then what is?
So many things. But imagine if that was reversed. Like NC State fans would have been convinced that conspiracy was real.
Right.
And there's been other times. I mean, we talked about the Maryland game earlier. I mean, I guess it was NC State stuff to be down by 27 points to a 2-19. But, I mean, we've had our fair share of good. We haven't won the championships, but there's a lot of moments in games that are still, whether it's football, whether it's a buzzer beater in basketball. I mean, we've had our fair share of good times too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that. I'm in a fantasy football league, and we were doing our draft over the weekend, and like people were just talking about different players. I'm like, by the way, he's from NC State. Oh, by the way, that one's from NC State. They're like, what? Like, how do you guys have all these players that are in the league? And I'm like, that's the thing. Like, we're a program that flies under the radar, doesn't get a lot of national media attention, but we consistently churn out NFL caliber players year in, year out. And I think next to Clemson in the last 10 years, I think State's the second most the second most players into the league. So maybe just talk about that for a second.
It's definitely true. I've had my fair share of teammates in the NFL that have played, and we always produce guys. Obviously, the quarterback position has been really good over the past 2 decades, but it's not just that. I mean, it's around the board. The fact that we've had two – what did Icky go? Did he go 5 or 6?
6.
6. Okay, I mean, top 6 picks in the past 4 drafts. I mean, that's incredible. And we've had tons of guys, and, I don't know if it's the relation between the NFL and the lack of championships is maybe we don't have the depth that some teams have or whatever. But when it comes to NFL talent, we're definitely not lacking in that area.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So let's shift back to this current team. Who is someone that maybe you've seen on some of the tape that you've been looking at, maybe through watching Devin Leary or other aspects of the offense that you think that's prime for a breakout year?
I don't know if it would necessarily be a breakout year because he's well known, but I think he's going to have huge years. Thayer Thomas. I personally throw with Thayer. I've been throwing with Emeka Mezi a bunch, but over the course of Thayer's entire career, I throw with him all the time in the off season, and I just feel like he is, really ready to take off. He's ready to be that featured guy. Obviously, him and Devin Carter, it's more of probably a 1A, 1B. But he's ready to be that guy, and I think he's going to be Devin's security blanket when they need a play, when it's 3rd and 7 and the game's on the line. I think they're going to have confidence in that one-on-one matchup that Thayer's going to win. And, now that Emeka's gone, that he can kind of get some more touches. And I just think he's going to have a really big year.
Yeah. And a lot of people talk about the impact of losing Emezi and how he was Leary's go-to guy, but Thayer Thomas actually led the team in receiving touchdowns last year. So, yeah, I agree with you. I expect him to have another big year.
Yeah, I think to your point too, Mike, that I think Devin's going to throw the ball around a lot more. I think he had the rapport with Emezi, and he had, a great rapport does have a great rapport with Thayer. But this team is so deep, at wide receiver. I think this is probably from 1 to, I think 10, 11. I don't know how many we were running with, but any given weekend, one of these guys can step up and make a huge play and have a huge impact. What would you think about having this wide receiver? Because I think that's, to the point is if there's a question mark, that's one of the question marks this team has, allegedly to the media, right? I think the three areas is running back, who replaces Icky at left tackle, and then the wide receivers. But just kind of maybe talk about the wide receivers a little bit, because I think people are sleeping on this wide receiver group.
Yeah, I do think it is deep, and kind of to your point, when I was watching the film of Devin, it would be kind of like I'd see a big play, I'm like, who's that guy? And then I'd see another big play, I'm like, who's that guy? And I think it's going to be kind of more of that. Is I know that they're confident, in particularly those two guys, but they're confident with the depth of it. And I've heard good things coming out of camp about, I think his name is Gray, redshirt freshman.
Julian Gray.
I've heard good things about the Maryland transfer. Remind me of his name.
Daryl Jones.
And then Porter Rooks. I mean, I think and there's other guys as well that I know they're excited about. I've heard speed.
Yeah.
There's speed. The young guys have a lot of speed. So I have not heard that they're concerned about that position. And I think they actually think it can be a strength for them.
Yeah, I would agree. Yes, you have to plug in. You had some big losses at positions, but I think that the thing that Coach Dorn has done is built so much depth, and you can think a little bit the COVID years maybe helped that a little bit, because you have these super seniors that are being there, but that's just going to help us moving forward. But last question for you before we let you go, and again, thank you so much for all your time tonight. Give us a prediction. What do you think? And we won't hold you against it. But we have one young lady on the team that says we're going to go undefeated and go 12-0. Most of us have us losing, I think, one game,
one or two. Yeah,
maybe two, I think, is the most. But what are your thoughts?
I'm going to go 10-2, and I think we'll knock off Clemson, and then we'll lose to, I don't know. I don't know who we'll lose to. I'm not even going to go down that route. But I think 10-2 get in the ACC championship.
Okay. So you think Clemson's going to lose two as well then?
Yes. I think they'll lose one more more other than
sure.
the loss to NC State, and NC State will get in.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll when NC State goes to the ACC championship, we'll definitely feature this as a pinned tweet on our Twitter feed. But
we'll rerun it.
Yeah, we'll rerun it. But hey, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, and we're glad to hear that you're doing well these days. And we're hoping that you get another shot at the NFL. And if not, we'll enjoy you at the tailgates at NC State and seeing you in the stands at Carter Finley this fall.
Yeah, if you see some tall, bald, pale guy walking around Carter Finley, that's probably me. So make sure you say hello.
Put a hat on that thing, man. We don't want you to get sunburned in that heat.
Yeah.
you used to wearing a helmet, so you didn't have to worry about that heat from Carter Finley in the summer. But again, thank you so much. We'll put all your information in the description. Wolfpack Nation, that'll conclude this episode. So make sure you go out and like. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And then when you subscribe, hit that bell so you get all these notifications when we have these great interviews like we do tonight with Mike Glennon. But until then, Wolfpack Nation, we'll see you soon, and go Pack.